Welcome to the College Football Show. We got a lot to talk about today. We got to talk about the NCAA. They've done a bunch of things. Some of it is good, and some of it, as a college football fan, you need to be absolutely terrified about. And we got to talk about the top 25 and my revised college football bracket as of right now. And I'm George Wrighster, former NFL player, college football analyst over at the CW. And you do not want to miss today because we're going to talk about the business of college football a little bit. And that's going to come up in just a minute because they are absolutely trying to take over college football. And this should be the scariest thing that you have seen, especially after this week, where people have been getting fired for things that they are saying and thinking and all of this stuff. Why this matters and why this is just so much more amplified in terms of the world of college sports. So the first thing that happened that the NCAA has done this week is there's a new, well, there have been in college football and the fall sports two transfer portal windows. One in the wintertime, which all the coaches complained about, that goes on during the college football playoff and after the season is over with. And then the other one, well, the season is over with for everybody who is not one of the upper echelon teams. And then a spring transfer window, which is about 15 days into April, early May, around there. Well, they have then voted, the NCAA committee has voted to only have one transfer window. Now, mind you, I interviewed Dabo, Swinney, Kenny Dillingham, Dan Lanning, uh, Dan Mullen, whole bunch of other college football coaches. All of them resoundingly said one thing, that they would like one transfer portal window. So, George, how is this possibly a bad thing, or is this a good thing? This is a good thing, and it's also a bad thing. So, the way it is good, one transfer portal window. So now guys know like where I need to move, where I don't need to move, any of those things. But the other part about it that's terrible is that this transfer portal window is going to be going on still, because the original proposed dates were January 2nd to a few, like January 17th. Well, how does that make sense? You're literally right in the middle of you just finished the first round of the playoffs and then the quarterfinals. So you still got the semifinals and the finals to go. So some of the teams that are going to be playing football still, or just finished playing football, they're now supposed to evaluate players, have players hop in the portal and get players out of the portal while they're trying to have uh, recruiting signing day, early signing day in late December, prepare for bowl games. This is absolute madness. This is why the college football season, and mind you, all the coaches have said the same thing as well, that the college football season needs to end January 1st. That's got to be the end of the college football season, because then now you are on a calendar that aligns with school. Because one of the biggest issues with the transfer portal that people don't always talk about is school. Because when you were in college, how hard was it to get into classes? At times it was difficult. Now, for student athletes, it is typically easier because they get to register early. But the registration happened months prior, weeks prior. So now you have players who are going to a new school, and now they're not able to get into classes that align with their majors. So now you're going to have less kids graduating. This is horrible. And then the second thing that is going to happen with this transfer portal window is that there are going to be lawsuits, because there used to be two windows, and now you're going to have lawsuits because the NCAA unilaterally made this decision. So you're like, George, aren't they in charge? Can't they make the decisions? Yes. But why do you think that we keep getting these lawsuits and the NCAA keeps getting its ass handed to it in court? Austin versus the NCAA, Ed O'Bannon versus the NCAA. And even the coaches have sued the NCAA about their wages, and then schools have sued about television rights in the 80s as well. What are we talking about? So the issue is, and I've said this about college sports this entire time, and if you are a college football fan, this should matter to you, or a college basketball fan. This should matter to you because the thing that people hate the most is litigation. Fans are like, oh my God, transfer portal. There are no rules. There are no stability. All can't get attached to players. All those things are very real, and your feelings about them are extremely real. There is only one single solitary way to solve this. And the way to solve it is to put one single negotiating body. So you right now you got the Big 10, ACC, Big 12, SEC, the Big Four conferences, and then you got obviously like the Mountain West, the American, the Sun Belt, and everybody in between, all the way down to the FCS schools. So there needs to be, for the Power Four especially, and the Group of Six schools, one negotiating body. Period. Period. So now, that one body can negotiate TV rights, which would be, they would get a 3-4x higher than what they have now. There would be a uniform body for players to then negotiate with. So the players could then essentially unionize. And I know that people, well, that makes them employees. Whatever, however, they should get a special designation code if you don't want to make them employees, but they should be able to sign up with their union, and then their union negotiate then with the governing body of college athletics, particularly college football. You know what that'll stop? That'll stop the lawsuits from Diego Pavia. That'll stop the lawsuits from name, image, and likeness. And everybody operates under a uniform set of rules. And then there is a commissioner who can dole out punishment as it relates to people breaking and violating the rules. How does this not make any sense? This is clearly the most sensible solution. But the reason why they don't want to do it is because that means that Greg Sankey, Tony Petitti, the uh, Big 12 commissioner, and Jim Phillips over in the ACC, they are all going to have to secede, give up power, relinquish their power. And that means that the conference then no longer has an advantage over the other conference. Because what the Big 10 and the SEC love is having an advantage over the Big 12 and having an advantage over the ACC. So having revenue sharing and everybody getting an equal slice of the pie, they don't want that. In fact, right now, they are trying to get unequal revenue sharing like they're going to do in the ACC in the Big 10 and in the Big 12. And all of these conferences are all looking at that as an option. That will be the death of college football. The death. Because you are then giving a self-fulfilling prophecy and essentially saying, if you're at the top, if you are a name brand like Ohio State right now, unless Cody Campbell comes in like has happened with Texas Tech and offers you a bailout and is going to spend his own hundreds of millions of dollars, or like SMU did, spending their own hundreds of millions of dollars to get into the ACC and not take revenue money initially, then you have no shot to be at the top of the conference because it's going to be based off TV rights, off TV, about TV ratings. How does this make any sense in terms of competitive balance? That would be like the Dallas Cowboys getting paid more than, hell, the Kansas City Chiefs. Well, actually, not even Kansas City Chiefs because they're super popular right now. Let's go to the LA Chargers. How about that? Or the Seattle Seahawks or the Arizona Cardinals. Them getting more revenue from the league because they're talked about more on television or have more television games. No, the league is concerned about the actual shield and the actual brand more. And this is where college football is failing right now. So, this leads to the second thing that has happened, and what I said is the absolute scariest, which is the takeover in college football. So, the SCORE Act right now is in the House of Representatives, has not been approved. It's going through the whole process, jumping through the hoops, getting vetted, and all this stuff. Now, all of this goes back to when I testified in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee in 2020 on name, image, and likeness. And we were discussing how it impacts players. I had to write I had to write letters and all this stuff to the senators in Nebraska and Cory Booker and everybody else, and then testify in front of them. Well, here is the issue, is that now we have reached a point where there is the SCORE Act that is literally on their desk right now. And this is led by the charge of, man, I mentioned before, Cody Campbell, who played college football when I played college football, who's now a multi-oil man billionaire, essentially. So Cody Campbell, he is now, spearheading this thing, overhauling the college sports model. Now, on one hand, I applaud Cody Campbell for jumping up in front of this and everything. But here is the potential issue. And Ross Dellinger wrote about this very well on On3. And I'll show you this is the article Ross Dellinger wrote. And he talks about in here the essential, crux of the SCORE Act is, and what they're trying to do, because now they have amended they're making edits to the SCORE Act. So this would essentially have a federally commissioned corporation governing college athletics. So the government, so this would now be a state-run thing. And when I say state, I mean United States. A state-run thing with the power to create rules about transfer limitations, enforce recruiting policies, prohibitions on tampering, inducements, and everything else. So with the sentiment right now, think about this. With the sentiment about the federal government right now, whether it's whether no matter what side you are on, everybody is generally under the same impression that there is corruption going on, money's not being spent well, that the leadership is in flux, all of these things. So why would we then want to put something else on their plate that can be privatized? That's the issue. Is that this new entity that they're trying to do will be able to reorganize conferences, negotiate consolidated media rights for all schools, and then control the distribution of those revenues. Look at what is happening right now. You have had colleges like Harvard, UCLA, anybody else. I mean, Liberty has been under the government's thumb at one point in time, all sorts of people. So then the federal government will be able to essentially say, okay, well, we don't like what your what the dean of the school said, so we're going to cut your funding for football right now. What? What? Are we being serious right now? This allows the weaponization of the government in college sports. This should be an absolute non-starter in terms of college sports. A non-starter. So, and Cody Campbell will tell you that, and the name of the entity is the United States College Athletics Corporation. And it would be a congressionally chartered corporation to govern the industry, and it will replace the NCAA. Now, according to them, what they're proposing is that it would be a board of former athletes, school constituents, and they would operate with, quote, limited government oversight. What does that mean? The word limited is doing a lot of heavy lifting right now. Limited. What does that mean? And this is the issue. So, and because this would fall under the executive branch's power, that means that the president of the United States, whether it's Donald Trump, whether it is Joe Biden, whether it's Barack Obama, whether it's George Bush, whoever the next president is, would then have the power of an executive order to then wipe out anything that he wants to, that he is then weaponized against, that he does not like personally. And this is the part that should scare you. It's not the fact of who is in government, or it is the fact that you should not, that this is a private industry, and that the government being able to do this should be a significant problem. And it is scary. Just saying. So here is the thing. But overall, the idea is not bad, because I just told y'all that there needs to be a single entity that controls these things. That way, there are not uh, policies and state laws that are enacted in California that conflict with the ones in Georgia. Then the ones in Georgia are different than the ones in Tennessee, are different than the ones in Michigan, different than the ones in New York, different than the ones in Wyoming. That can't be. Everybody's got to be playing by the same rules. And that's where the College Sports Commission, the CSC, which is doing NIL Go right now, that's what they're trying to do, is to preempt what is happening here. Now, I don't believe that they're going to be successful, because there's not one negotiating body, and they're going to keep getting lawsuits all over the place. But here is the thing where the USAC would actually, I believe, in the core principles of this part of it, is that they are going to be protecting, they're saying that they're going to be protecting women's and Olympic sports. Yes, because you have schools that are dropping these sports to save money in other areas, when those sports are the fabric of winning Olympic medals and getting our doctors, lawyers, and other engineers and all that stuff through school. Think about that. Only 1 to 2% of all college players turn professional in their sport. We're talking about really 1 point something percent of all of them. So that means, like the commercial says, they will be going pro in something else. So if they are going pro in something else, that means that they're your doctors, they're your lawyers, they're your engineers, they are your school teachers, they are your principals, they are your guidance counselors, they are your firemen, they are your chief of police, they are all of those things. Former college athletes, they're your stockbrokers, they work at the, you get the point. So that I 100% support. But I am worried about the players in this, because just stampeding these rules around is going to lead to more lawsuits. And then if the federal government is the people running it, that's going to be a lot harder. And especially when there is influence, there will be more lobbying going on and everything in between. And I don't like it, not even one single bit. Now, and then they are also saying that one of the other things that it would be doing is having a reorganization plan for conferences while considering regional traditional rivalries, parity, travel, and media exposure. Now, all of that sounds great, right? That sounds fantastic, until you get into the fact of who are the power brokers? Like, who are the people that will be controlling that? Will they be doing what's best for themselves and their university and the people that they are aligned with? Or will they be doing what's best for college football as a whole, college sports as a whole? That's the question. Because people have, like, as much as Nike has done for college sports and growing the games and the uniforms and all this stuff, people are still upset. They favor Nike. Look at other corporations, like with Adidas now taking Penn State from Nike. Well, Penn State's doing more. They're putting more money into their NIL coffers, and everybody has some advantages. And companies are going to lean certain ways, and it will be the same exact way if it's under, essentially limited government purview. Just saying. So, according to Cody Campbell and these dudes, He envisions a world where the Big Ten and the SEC schools, which are earning more money right now, would earn $40 to $50 million more than they do now, and the Big Ten and the ACC around $30 million more, and the Group of Six earning as much as $14 million more. Yes, more money is good, but here's the question: what about those TV rights that are going on right now? Because you have TV contracts from each conference that they're not lined up and synced up. And we talked to John Wilner about this last week. So go back and look at that interview on the show, because he our friends, he talked about this as well. And about until that, in terms of was there going to be a super conference or anything else, that that could potentially happen once these TV contracts get synced up. And he believes that there will be getting synced up at some point in time. Now, this USAC, there it's believed that they're going to consolidate rights into a package that's 2 to 3 times more worth the current rate, which is exactly what I said about the current consolidation. If they consolidate the media rights, but that will create parity. So that is another problem that the conferences don't want. And do you know who's against it? Specifically, the Big Ten and the SEC. Now, and this goes to the Sports Broadcasting Act, which I talked about on another video. So make sure that you guys go search that, because the school sued the NCAA about the ability to negotiate TV contracts because they were trying to suppress the amount of money that and everything else, and to suppress how many games were on television and everything else. So NCAA lost that. That's one of their earliest losses. Lost to the coaches, lost that, all that. So, and then you had Greg Sankey point out last week about the TV contract. He's like, see, look, I don't know. Huh. And then Cody Campbell and company came back and said that, okay, cool, let's allow, and we're talking about the Big Ten contract, which goes through 2036. That one's with Fox. SEC through 2034 with ESPN. ACC through 2036 with ESPN. And then the Big 12 through 2031 with ESPN and Fox. So Cody Campbell's like, I got a solution for it. You just allow the contracts to expire and then bridge any other gaps with private equity money. So in summation of this whole thing, some of the ideas in this are 100% valid, and they are real, and they are actually pointed in the exact right direction that we need to be going. That's one thing. The second thing is, this is also scary as hell in terms of how this will then impact the players and our viewing as fans. Because if if somebody who is a part of this with the government then says, with the stroke of a pen, with an executive order, says, oh, we're gonna limit this school's funding, or this, what the hell are you gonna do? Nothing. So it puts too much power in one specific place when this is something that needs to be privatized. But the issue with privatizing is that the biggest stakeholders, the Big Ten, the SEC, they do not want parity. And the ACC, the top schools, which are now going to get a bigger share, uneven revenue sharing, they don't want that either. That's the problem, and this is why the federal government is involved. Because, and I'm going to liken this to something that I know some of you guys have been through. This is like family court. This is exactly like family court. If you've ever been through family court, what you don't want to do is end up in front of the judge. It is way easier to negotiate what you guys want to do in private, and both of you guys leave a little bit unhappy, than having the judge rule your schedule. Say, all right, since y'all can't come to an agreement, you got to pick them up on Tuesday at 5. You got to pick them up on Thursday at 6. And y'all exchange at this location and this, and this. And you're like, I didn't want that. Well, you couldn't come up with a solution, so I came up with one for you. That's where we're at right now. So please, the College Sports Commission, the Big Ten, the SEC, you do not want the government making this decision for you. Make the decision yourself. All right. Next thing that we got to talk about is my top 25 for week 4. Let's go on to happier news. My top 25 for week 4. So here is my top 25. And I like to do this explaining, right? Because a lot of people, when you are looking at the AP poll and all of that, they don't give you the explanation as to why. So every week, I'm going to give you guys the explanation for my top 25 because it is based upon 3 criteria. And those are the 3 most important criteria that any poll, list, ranking should be brought upon in college football. Quality wins, schedule played, and dominance. That's it. You can knock anything else up out the way with those things. So Miami is number 1. Miami is beating Notre Dame, who still looks like an extremely good football team. They have taken care of South Florida, which had already beaten Florida, and they had beaten Boise State. Now, I don't count the Boise. Like a lot of people are going to give South Florida 2 ranked wins, and they should because they would give it to the SEC if that were so. But Boise State was ranked too high early at number 25, so is what it is. But Miami has looked extremely dominant, and I like it. Like they have looked dominant. Their offensive line is good. Their defense has been stout, getting takeaways. They have weapons on the outside. So far, they have earned the number 1 spot to me. Ohio State, that Texas win, it was doing a lot of heavy lifting early. But how's Texas look now? I got them at number 19 right now. How does Texas look right now, if we're really being honest? They have the 91st best offense in college football right now. Arch Manning is suffering from a confidence issue. He doesn't suck. So let's not do that. He doesn't suck. He's suffering from a confidence issue, which is poor play. Now, which is exacerbating poor play. So it's not that the kid doesn't have talent. It's that he's playing nowhere near up to the expectations that are expected of him. And now it's in his brain. Now, are they going to bench him? Yeah, it's a whole nother story. That probably ain't happening. So Ohio State, they still look very good. And it's not a knock to be at number 2 after 3 games. Like, let's just relax. Oklahoma's beating a good Michigan team. I like this Oklahoma team. I like what they've done. And John Mateer, he looks really good. Excited about him as well. So this is not a situation where I am in any way, shape, form, or fashion discouraged or dissuaded by Oklahoma at all. And Brent Venables calling the defense, they look extremely good. They've also taken care of Temple, and they've taken care of Illinois State, only giving up 19 points on the entire season. Good on Oklahoma. Oregon, they've looked dominant from cover to cover. Their domination is higher than their schedule so far. They've played Northwestern. They've played Oklahoma State. They've played Montana State. They've been dominant in every single fashion of the game. Now is Oklahoma State good? No, but it's reality. Georgia. Now, Georgia's a team that they gave up way too many points against Tennessee. They gave up 41 points, but they dominated Marshall. And then that Austin Peay win, but the Tennessee win for them is doing a lot of heavy lifting. I'm not gonna lie. FSU beat Bama. I'm not sure what Bama is completely yet, except talented. That's what we know. They've taken care of business against Wisconsin, against ULM, but until we see them stress tested at all, we don't know. And Florida State's only played one other game, so not high leverage competition, so that's where they're at. Now, this is the one that people are concerned about. They're like, how is LSU at number 7, George? What, they beat Clemson. And they got 2 AP votes right now, and they beat Florida. Something is wrong with LSU's offense right now, and that's why Brian Kelly got defensive about it. They are having trouble scoring points. That's just the truth. They got 5 turnovers from Florida and only were able to turn that into 13 points. And I think 2 of them, they were already in field goal range when they got the turnover. So come on, man. There's something going on with LSU, and Clemson's offense is broken right now. So I'm sorry. If you see the team that I picked to win the national championship, Clemson ain't nowhere to be found in here. Illinois. Illinois's got a big test with Indiana this week, who I don't even have ranked right now. I don't even know what Indiana is. They played Indiana State and Kennesaw State and somebody else, State Tech, DeVry. I know nothing about them. Yes, they do have a nice quarterback, Fernando Mendoza from Cal, but we'll see. If they win this weekend against Illinois, they will vault up these rankings. Just saying. Utah, they've looked dominant. This team is big. They are physical, and they are quarterbacked. They're quarterbacked by Devin Dampier. I like what I'm seeing out of this team. Penn State. Now, I have debated where to put Penn State in this rankings. They're number 2 in the AP poll, and I can't figure out why. Nevada, FIU, and Villanova. What about those wins, when you watch them and you're looking at how Drew Aller is playing, leads you to believe that this is the second best team in the country? People are living off of the name, the fact that they won against Boise State and SMU in the college football playoff last year. Nah, sorry. You ain't gonna fool me. We will know everything we need to know about this Penn State team initially when they play Oregon in week 5. So they may not even deserve to be in the top 10 right now, if I'm being honest. I got Iowa State, Texas Tech, Texas A&M, Georgia Tech. I'm giving Vanderbilt love. But the next one where people are wondering about is Notre Dame. George, they're 0-2. You can't say that you are what your record is, because how many other teams have played a schedule of Miami, who I have number 1, and Texas Tech so far? How? They lost on the last second field goal, essentially, to Miami. They had a chance to score, but did barely any time left. At Texas A&M, they were a holding call of the 2 holding calls on the same 4th down play away from a win. So, yes, they are still one of the top 25 best teams in the country right now. And in fact, I think they actually might be one of the top 12, but they have not earned it. That's the difference. Tennessee, no problem there. Auburn, nobody's going to argue. We already talked about Texas. TCU's doing well. Michigan, like Michigan. And then the last thing is, but more in 2026 than 2025, but they got a big test coming up soon. And then you got Washington. People are not respecting Washington right now. They got the Apple Cup this weekend with Washington State. They're going to run them out of the building, but then it gets sketch next week against Ohio State. But that game is going to be on Lake. I cannot wait to talk about that game, because it is going to go bananas. And there could be an upset in that game. I'm just saying. And then you got number 25 USC. USC begged for this. USC begged for this. You can't ignore what they've been doing, but you can blink at the competition. They finally played a big Power 4 opponent in Purdue. They beat them. Congratulations. You're in the top 25. Indiana would like a word. That's it. But then that has then shaped my top 25. Well, the top 25 has then shaped my college football playoff bracket. So here was my initial college football playoff bracket to start the season. I had Penn State 1, Texas 2, Clemson 3, Oregon 4, Notre Dame 5, LSU 6, Kansas State 7, Ohio State 8, Georgia 9, Illinois 10, South Carolina 11, and UNLV 12. I didn't think that was terrible at all. But then I ended up going with, after that, I then took my poll and I gave you guys a new playoff prediction. So my new playoff prediction is revealed here. Boom. There we go. Some of the teams have changed. Some of the faces have changed. Some of them have stayed the same. I threw Clemson in the trash right now, at least temporarily. I know Dabo would be like, see, George, you're not all in. That's the problem. Listen, my job ain't to be all in. My job is to objectively say what we got right now. Do I still believe Clemson has a shot? Yes. It ain't the same shot as I thought it was. All right, so right now I got Miami 1, and this comes from the rankings, from the top 25. This is not George trying to Jimmy rig something. This is just we put it in the way it came out, and what we got is what we got. And these dictated some interesting matchups that I would love to see. Oregon 1, I'm sorry, Miami 1, Ohio State 2, Oklahoma 3, Oregon 4. This feels good to me. And then from there, Georgia 5, FSU 6, Florida State, LSU 7, Illinois 8, Utah 9, Penn State 10, Iowa State 11, Memphis number 12. Feel great about that. So then that gave me Illinois versus Utah. Got Utah winning that. They play Miami. Miami beats Utah. Then I got Memphis playing Georgia. Georgia wins. Georgia plays Oregon. Oregon beats Georgia. Then we got Oregon versus like think about how this played out when I was doing it. I was like, what? So then I got Dan Lanning playing against Kirby Smart, who smoked him in his first game as a head coach in the place that he used to coach at and won a national championship as a defensive coordinator. And then Oregon plays them and wins. And then they're then playing in the semifinals against their old head coach, Mario Cristobal. What? Who kept playing this? This was not user intentionally generated. Then on the other side, you got Penn State, LSU. Love that potential matchup. Got LSU winning that one. And then playing Ohio State, and then Ohio State beating LSU. Then on the bottom half of the bracket, Iowa State playing FSU. I think that would be a good game. And then playing Oklahoma, and then Oklahoma beating FSU. Now, this is like an NCAA tournament bracket where you pick all 1 seeds. That's what I got. Where you got 1, 2, 3, 4 advanced into the semifinals. And last year you had 5, 6, 7, 8. Think about that. But I do believe that schools are going, but with the way the seeding is done now, I think you're going to get more top seeds win. Then I got Ohio State versus Oregon, 2 versus 4 for the national championship, and with the Ducks winning, getting revenge from last year's Rose Bowl. Y'all hop in the comments, tell me what y'all are thinking. But you guys, though, this has been George Wrighster's College Football Podcast. Make sure that you like, subscribe, get notifications, tell a friend about the show. Most importantly, share, because this is the stuff that y'all need to see. This is the stuff that you need to hear, because it matters so much. Peace out. Catch you guys later. Enjoy the games this weekend and stay on the channel. More hot-ish coming.